Welcome everybody, thanks for joining on the sixth of our series of chats with Leatham Green, who's Transformation Director at Oracle in the public sector, about skills, competencies and all things skills development and workforce planning. And this is a supplementary extra which is about real life examples, so I thought we'd take the opportunity, Leatham, to have a chat about a couple of three examples where we kind of think that people are doing a good job. So welcome again, and thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Great to see you. And so Leatham, tell me, what are the good examples, or what examples would you like to draw on to illustrate the skills growth and how we should be dealing with it?
Well, I was thinking of my first job after university, and I was in charge of catering in a general hospital.
Right.
And imagine you've got a long conveyor belt, which patients you fill in your menu card of what you want to have for your lunch or your dinner. So I want a sandwich and you put a dot next to it, I want soup and you put a dot next to it. So my first day on this conveyor belt, I was at the end checking the trays as they came down this conveyor belt at a rate of knots. And staffing was a huge problem then. You know, we talk about skills gap, it existed in 1984, which was my first employment, and we had a lot of agency staff arrive to help us with this conveyor belt. They arrived on the conveyor belt, off we went, and half of them couldn't read or speak English.
Right.
The trays would come down and food was put on which had no bearing to what the patient had ordered.
So we're talking often about very basic skills,
Very basic.
and an appreciation of actually that much as we want everyone to have a certain base starting point, they don't. It's just not true. We are all having to tap into people with the right potential and capability, but who don't have the basic skills.
Yeah, and that was a real kind of eye-opener for me, a big lesson learned. You know, and then, of course, how do you solve that problem?
Yes, well, it's very interesting. It's a couple of, and I'm not going to mention which customers they are because I really can't, but one of the challenges of deploying HR technology and talking to HR is that you discover things which you don't necessarily want to, and then one of the things which we discovered at a couple of clients is actually the levels of literacy can be quite low in certain areas of businesses, and this is a challenge for those guys. So if you are being challenged to develop skills, use self-service, do any of this stuff, and you actually don't have the level of literacy required, you're creating a whole new challenge to those people who may have hidden or it hasn't been an important skill thus far. And so this can be quite a threatening exercise, driving.
Yeah, hugely. And there's a story that comes to mind. I've spent most of my career in public service, and some amazing people I've met who do brilliant jobs in the caring area. And this one in particular colleague who had probably spent all of his life being able to hide the fact that he couldn't read.
Yes.
And suddenly we had a computerized system which was brought in about picking service users up and dropping them off at the right location. And he became completely mortified at the fact that how can I do my job? And not able to actually say to people, well, I can't read.
Yes.
And this transition, as we see the types of jobs changing, previously not reliant upon digital, suddenly we've got a piece of technology which is required for a driver to do the job, and I can't deliver that.
Right, so this assessment of what level people are is kind of really important. I think a bit about, say, the Army as an organisation, where they start the skill journey on an assumption that there are very low start skills and that there's no bottom level. So they can take anybody and turn them into a highly productive individual within the organisation. And they do that by taking a low assumption of the start point and then making it a kind of shame-free environment as to where you start from, but with the promise that they can take you to a level where you're highly productive within the business, which actually is quite lovely. Actually, it's great because we know this is a career journey which people who are not often embracing higher education, etc., can take and be fulfilled.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. Another thing that I've had, and this is kind of myth busting, we hear a lot of negative press often about generation X, Y, and Z in terms of not being so great at communication skills.
Yes.
I have to say, the people who I've been working with over recent years, particularly interns, I mean, they've really blown me away in terms of how amazing they are at communication. So this is not a generational thing. This is a human thing.
Yes.
And we all need to be aware of the importance and significance of lifelong learning. I keep banging on about this. So my world is not one that was based in digital technology. So the lens that I look at life and my problem solving isn't automatically driven by that. So I need to up my game to make sure that I can be better there. This is where things like reverse mentoring are so critical. So I've benefited hugely from reverse mentoring, helping with my social media profile, or how do I kind of think about digital solutions. So, and that is really powerful in terms of sending messages down the line. At whatever level you are, at whatever age you're at, this constant need to refresh, whatever, and that might be quite a small scale, but for me, this is a big issue in terms of how I look.
This is very interesting, actually, because when I think about it, what we're talking about is not, because you join an organisation, you've got senior people, and they're saying, it can feel at that point when you're joining that they're all saying, well, look, if you hang around here for 5 years, 10 years, you can end up like me. And it's like, I think a lot of joiners go, I don't want to end up like you, and looking at your competency in this area and that area, who would want to be like you, because one can do better. But so we're talking about both ends changing and appreciating the skills and the different shape of skills in the future.
And something like the skill and power of storytelling. Because we are all in this world about digital transformation or business transformation. Leaders at whatever level through that hierarchy need to be able to tell a story, a compelling vision of the future. Which is a great skill to possess, because as human beings we connect with each other through stories, don't we? Whether that's over a cup of coffee, a drink, a chat, it brings it to life. And how often do we go into organisations or watch leaders and they're kind of painting this very transactional view of the world, of the future. So this skill is right across the age profile of any organisation, whatever sector it is, the power of storytelling, being able to do it uniquely yourself. It
is very interesting. I think particularly in the higher levels of professional services, things like legal services and other organisations, which we do a lot of work with, and there is work to be done on the disconnect between what an experience of someone joining work in the 80s and then developing their career, ever since, and where they are now, and what it is to join the same business, what the expectations are, what the difference in what they expect the journey to be, and actually what the end result needs to be. People are working in a very different way and applying those skills and growing those skills in a completely different way from what we went through.
A good practical example in Oracle. We do something which I think is an amazing program called Generation O. So this is all about saying to people out there in the world of work, we're keen and interested to hear from you wherever you come from, whatever background you're doing, whatever skill set you've got. Apply for a job with Oracle and we will train you, develop you to be a good operator, a great operator in our business. And that community, that cohort, has a brilliant age range. We've got young people, older people, good mix of gender, different professional groups coming in, and it's a brilliant kind of community to be part of and watching them grow and develop.
That's really exciting. I love that idea of sub-communities within businesses and making that as a driver. So, Leatham, thank you very much for joining us for the whole series of 6 talks on skills, and for the audience who have watched every single one, thank you very much for joining. I hope it's been as useful for you guys as it's been for me.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Leatham, and see you all soon. Bye.